Ahmed and I were waiting months. Like, we probably last year in November, maybe, we binged all the John Wicks, like 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I'm excited about 4.
Yeah, so we binged them, and I was like, I think it was November, and I was like, okay, the 4th one's coming out in March, and I was like, so we should just watch like one a month, so that by March or whatever, like if we watch one in November, one in December, one in January, or whatever, one in December, January, February, then we'll see the one in March. And then, of course, instead, we just like immediately within probably like one day watched all 3, of course. And then like didn't watch anything until we just went on the weekend and saw the 4th one.
Oh, you did? Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. They're all good. It's all good. Everything's good.
You know what's so funny about that?
What?
I literally saved this before you got here because we're talking. Oh, my alarm's on. We love Keanu Reeves here.
I promise you, you are.
Oh, that's kind.
You have been called the internet's boyfriend. You've stayed very humble.
Yeah.
That's Keanu Reeves.
Oh, tell us. What's the
He's just so lovely.
I am just trying to do the best I can. You know, hopefully people like what I do.
You did a lot of stunts in this.
You know what else as well?
I do some action. Johnny.
There's just something very handsome about him, I find.
Yes. He is a handsome man. When we sat down and it started playing, then Ahmed like made a joke. I won't say what the joke was, but basically he was saying like that he knows that I have a big crush on Keanu Reeves.
I mean, it's just he just genuinely seems like a lovely person.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he just doesn't fit the like Hollywood narcissism thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, John Wick was it was good. It was good. I think it
I want
got
to see it.
90-something, 94% of Rotten Tomatoes, of course, or something. And it's like, his acting's not great. It's never been great.
You know what? Outside of The Matrix,
Yeah.
it's The Matrix and John Wick 1, because it was the first time we were seeing the John Wick character. But outside of those movies, the other ones, honestly, I think I've seen a portion of each movie, but I've never just sat down and watched from start to finish.
I've watched them all through multiple times, except for the most recent one. I saw that one in theater, and I could live my whole life without seeing it again. I'd be just fine.
You know what movie I was disappointed in? Avatar.
Oh, did you see it?
Now, here's the thing. The storyline could have gone so many places, and I just wasn't happy with where they took it. I feel like I was underwhelmed by it. And we waited like 27 years for this movie to come out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you gave us this? First of all, we watched it here. Chris fell asleep. The movie is like 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And I can sit and watch a movie that's 3.5 hours if it's going to hold my attention.
Right.
But he fell asleep. I'm on TikTok and I'm back to watching.
Yeah.
He's getting a snack and I'm back to watching. I kind of dozed off and I'm back to watching. And then he always has this thing where he's like, you're sleeping. And I'm like, you're sleeping.
How dare you?
Like, you were just snoring. Okay. Yeah. Because I know that when I'm insanely tired, I snore the most. So I kept trying to not fall asleep so I wouldn't snore.
Oh, God.
So I'm laying there and I can feel myself drifting off, and then I'd be I would like try to like stir myself awake. Until finally he's like, just take off your glasses, and they don't. I was like,
there's so many similarities between you and Ahmed. You guys are really like fight. You're sleeping so much.
I don't know why.
You both snore a lot and like deny it. There's a lot of similarities between you guys. And even today, I was like, when I went over there before I came over here, and I said, you and Shaunda both do that same thing where you like, if you don't have to work early the next day or whatever, you like fight sleep for so long.
Yep.
There's no reason for it. You're tired. You have nothing really to do. You should just go to sleep like a normal human being, but both of you will just like do absolutely anything to not go to sleep.
I don't know why we're like that.
And you're not satisfied till it's like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then finally you're like, okay, now I can go to sleep. And then you just sleep until like noon or something. And then you've like wasted the time.
That's exactly what Christopher said to me.
And then you
over
wake
the
up and then you
weekend.
have to like immediately basically just do a couple things and then start working.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
don't
like if you had
like
just
it.
gone to sleep at a regular time, you wouldn't be tired. You would get a full night's sleep. You would get up. You would do a bunch of stuff. You would use your day and then you would go to work and just have like a normal routine.
And it's true. I don't have anything to do. I have nothing to do, but I'll like
Like forcing yourself to stay awake.
Yes.
And you're like tired too. That's the thing.
I'll send a voice note being like, hey, Sarah, just doing
And
this.
then it's all
doing
like,
that.
I don't know why. Anytime I start doing voice notes, I just start yawning. I wasn't yawning before, and then I started this voice note. Here I am yawning.
Because it's true. I was there the whole time laying there.
You're tired. That's why you're yawning.
I don't know. He literally said that exact, like almost verbatim. He said that to me on the weekend.
Yeah.
When you know you don't have to get up early.
Me and Chris are the same, and you and Ahmed are the same.
It's actually true. Like in the
Yeah.
mornings, he'll get up and be like, ready to start my day.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah, today even I went over there. And granted, he didn't go to sleep till like 7 a.m.
yeah.
Not because he just chose to not go to sleep, because he worked till like 6. But he's like, I'm like telling him what I did today, and I got there at like 10 or whatever, and he's like, what time did you get up? And I was like 7:30, and he's like, oh, I'm like, what? I get up at 7:30 every single day.
No, it's before when, and mind you, it was because of like the animals that would get you up. But sometimes when you like reply to my voice note and I'm looking at the time, I'm like, it says 6:42. And you're like, yeah, I'm just walking to Starbucks. I'm like, why?
I know, it's funny when I'm up really early and I do walk to Starbucks. It's like a fucking ghost town outside. And I'm like, am I the most productive person in the world?
And I'm like, she has a
And then someone
car.
runs by me. I'm like, damn it, that person's more productive than me. And I like want them to fall down. The worst thing is when I'm like, it's like dead of winter and it's so early in the morning. It's dark out still.
Yep.
The sidewalks are sheer ice.
Yep.
And I'm in my winter boots and I'm like, like slowly moving around, like very stiffly trying not to fall down. And someone will fucking run by me in running shoes.
Oh, they're good. They are good.
They're not good. I want that person to fall down just to learn their lesson. Have you ever seen that video where she's like, it's dead of winter, the woman's interviewing her, it's like some news thing, and she's like, isn't it slippery or whatever when you're running on ice?
Oh.
And she's like, it's the perfect surface to run on. It just grips your shoes, whatever. And she's like trying to be like, oh, I'm so great because I run early in the morning in the winter even. And then she's like, yeah, it's great. And then she's like, well, there you have it. And then she like starts to run away and she falls. And you're like, yes. Yeah, like, I don't know. There's just something about those people. Or when it's like a snowstorm or a rainstorm and you see them and they're running and you're like, oh, you think
I'm just
you're
like,
so
seriously, really?
And they're
There's nothing in your
full
house
running
that you
gear.
could do. Run up and down the stairs a few times. Like you really wanted to get your stuff on and go out in these elements and have me look at you doing this and know that I'm going inside to eat Oreos.
Well, can't you take a break for one day?
Like, come on.
And the other thing that really annoys me with people that are running, I guess that's where we've gone with this now, is like Danforth, for example.
Yeah.
It's a busy fucking street.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's one lane each way, and then there's parking, and then there's bike lanes. So that's busy, and then there's the sidewalks, and now since they've made the Cafe TO thing, you have the patios on the sidewalks. So there's some sections of the sidewalk where there's just enough space for two people to pass each other, and like you got to go in single file, basically.
Yeah.
And people insist on running down the sidewalk on Danforth.
They should be in the bike lane.
No. They shouldn't be in the bike lane because that's also annoying. There are literally hundreds of side streets that go off of Danforth, and there's no lights on them. This is the thing that bothers me the most. There's no stoplights. So you see these people running on Danforth, and then they have to stop at the stoplights because there's traffic, there's cars. They have to stop. And then they stop and they do that like
jog on the one
jog
spot.
on the spot.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you just ran down the side streets, not only would you not be so annoying to everybody else that's walking on the sidewalks, you wouldn't have to stop at the stoplights because there's no stoplights. You just keep turning down this street and then turning down that street and then turning and then go through this beautiful park.
Yeah.
And then you keep turning down that street and then you get to another beautiful park. Like, why do you have to run down the busiest street in the whole neighborhood?
Agreed.
I literally think it's just so other people see them. That's the conclusion I've come to.
My thing with the bike lane is that when it's places like what you mentioned on Danforth, when you see that, okay, I can see there's people ahead, I can also see there's not enough room to just segue off to the bike lane.
Yeah, you can go out and then come
in.
back. Yeah.
But they don't do that.
But there are people that will just run in the bike lane, period.
I wouldn't run in the bike lane.
And then the bike like come up behind them and they don't hear them. And then the bike's like ding, ding, ding. Like, get the fuck. What are you doing?
I've seen some things as a TTC taker and as a pedestrian.
Yeah.
And I am none too impressed. I remember this old place that I used to live at. The bus stop was right in front of my street. So I have to cross the street. Now I'm going to do it safely. Trust and believe LaShauna's going to take her time. But there are people that would just go run. And I'm like, you know that you're not going to win a fight with a car. You know that.
And it's always people that are in all black clothing.
Yep.
With nothing reflective on them. Wearing headphones.
Yep.
And a hood.
Yep. And then I'd also get pissed off because I was like, I was trying to cross with you. You just left me behind. Like, I thought we were in this together. We all got off the bus.
I'll be standing and I'm like waiting for the perfect opportunity. And then somebody else goes and then you're like,
Yes.
I gotta go with you.
And it's always these white men that just like, boop, 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 they're across the street.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, can you wait for me, please? Because now I have to do this on my own.
Matt can't win these days. If they stick around, we're like, what do you want, pervert? If they leave us, we're like, how dare you? Chivalry is dead.
Right?
So in short, we love Keanu Reeves and John Wick was great.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing it on back.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't even remember that. That's where we circled from.
That's how we started.
All right, cool. So that was a fun segue.
So I don't even know what story you're doing today.
No, you do not. But welcome to Why They Do That. I am LaShaunda, and that's Sarah.
I'm Sarah. That's the podcast. Why they do that?
So, The Forgotten Cannibal.
The Forgotten Cannibal.
Karl Denke?
Dank?
Yeah.
Like dank ass weed, bro?
I mean, not exactly, but
How do I spell it?
similarly, Denke.
Dank. Okay,
Dank.
what is that, German?
It is, as she gives away my notes. He was born on February the 12th of 1860, so we have a little bit of an old one, but he disgusted me.
Oh.
Yes. So he's from an area which is now a part of Poland. I'm not going to lie to you. Normally, I put in the specifics for the locations. I could not come to pronounce any of them. So I just am giving you, because it wasn't even the names that they are today.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
Eastern European languages, Scandinavian languages, they're hard.
They are hard.
There's all little symbols.
Yes, there's a lot of that. And
You're like,
I'm
is that a letter?
I only know the
What alphabet
accents
is
of
this?
French. I couldn't even, because then you Google it and then you say, like, how do you pronounce this? And it's like, "Bow!"
You're like, all right, so I'm just going to shout a noise into the microphone at this time. You're like, what's that little circle? Is that a letter? Why does that C have a sword on it?
We love you, Germany and Poland. So his family were German farmers, which they didn't really have too much crazy stuff going on. There's really not a whole bunch about him in general.
Yeah.
It's more so when everything came out. He went under the radar very successfully.
Like most people would in the 1800s.
Well, that's the whole thing. So he was a difficult child, but he kind of kept to himself. He was kind of quiet.
Okay.
And then something must have happened, I'm assuming, because he ran away at the age of 12.
Okay.
Don't know what happened, but I'm assuming, kids don't generally just run off for no reason.
Right.
Mind you, there's a lot going on at this time as well, so who knows if that was a part of it. But in any case, he still completes elementary school and goes on to be a gardener apprentice, which he did quite well at. At 25, his father passes away, and in doing so, he actually leaves his brother with the family home, and Karl comes into some money, which he uses to buy a property that has a house, a garden, and a shed.
Okay.
So he wasn't much of a drinker. No one really ever saw him in relationships with women. He was kind of just one of those off to himself type of people. So at this point now, he owns a meat shop, and he's pretty well liked in the community. He's charitable. He helps people around the area.
Sorry. Just when there's a cannibal who owns a meat shop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just
We're trucking into some
foreshadowing,
stuff
yeah.
here. Tell you that darn much.
Yeah.
People called him Father Denke because, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Denke.
Probably like Denke.
How do you pronounce Denke in German? All right.
Denke is German for
Oh,
think.
Denke. Okay.
What did I just say? Denke.
People called him Father Denke. It's actually Denke with the correct pronunciation, but we're going to go with Denke for all intensive purposes.
For no reason. Okay, let's keep going.
So he was a pretty sweet guy. Like, he played the organ during church services. He'd carry the cross at evangelists' funerals. He was middle class, but he still kind of found the means to help, like, the homeless, the beggars, the travelers, the passerbyers.
Okay.
All that kind of stuff. So he would give them a place to stay and the odd job. So this is like World War I brewing.
Okay.
And a whole bunch of turmoil, a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Okay.
So Karl had lost his savings and was forced to sell the house. But he kind of like refuses to leave, and he moves into something of an apartment on the ground floor of the house. So you remember he has this meat shop, but he also sold things like suspenders, shoelaces, belts, and just leather products in general. Indeed.
I'm getting shades of Ed Gein.
Yeah. So, oh wait, there's something in particular that I was like, oh, see, we got another one. So he would travel to this place called Breslau, where he had a license to sell pork in the city from the Butcher's Guild. And his specialty was boneless, skinless, and pickled in jars. Yep. Now, he was also known to have his jars labeled skinless pickled pork in Hala Targoa.
Sounds appetizing.
Right? I was like, oh, yuck. Y'all had weird taste buds back in the day.
I don't think it was a matter of taste. I think it was a matter of like, how can we preserve this?
Yes, but I feel like you would have had to like develop a taste for it, you know?
I guess.
There's this guy, I've shown you his video before on TikTok, and he does recipes from like years before. And he'll do like, this is like I don't know, a brand cake from 1902. And then he'll do the recipe, and some of them are good. Some of them are not too shabby, but some of them I'm like, how the frig did you even put those things together?
Yeah.
To even think that would create a recipe.
Because it was like all they had.
I know that that's the case. And then wars and all this stuff is going on, and
you gotta
poverty.
work with what you got.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Sugar rations.
Yeah. Like, and it's like you're traveling by horse and carriage or whatever. Like,
That's why I always say it. I knew that I was put to be born in the 80s for a reason.
yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have made it.
Even the 80s was hard times compared to now. Now we're like, oh, my Uber's so far away. When is my $40 of
that's
takeout
like-
gonna get here?
Can you come down here? You've gone too far. I can't walk all the way over there. It's happened before. It happened the other day when it was raining. You know, the rain, like, I get the leggy pains. And he was coming down. I'm like, can you please swing around? Because I am having the worst pain today. And he did. And he was nice about it. But sometimes I'm just like, can you just... Because either way, you have to turn around. Just do it with me in the car.
Like the time I threw my back out and I literally could barely stand and I was leaning against a pylon.
Yeah.
And I see him way up the street and I was like, I literally cannot walk to you.
You know what's funny though? The thing, like, sometimes they just go places. I'm like, the address is over here. You're a block away.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm like, you're probably like 30 numbers away from where you
Yeah,
should be.
like-
I know it doesn't say you've arrived at your destination.
And then it starts the thing and it says you have 4 minutes until they depart.
yeah.
And I'm like, you're not even to me right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I can
could
see where you are.
first. And then we'll talk about when we're departing.
Right? Ridiculous. So because of the times, his products were pretty popular and it gave him a decent income. Not a lot, but enough. Enough for him to get by. So now we're trucking into his gross stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we don't exactly know specifically how he did it in which order, but something happens later on where we kind of find out.
Okay.
So his first victim was Ida Launer in 1903. He then kills in 1909, and he murdered 25-year-old Emma Sander. But the thing about that was another slaughterhouse worker named Edward Trotman was found guilty of her murder, but he's later released in 1926 after everything had come out.
Oh, okay.
So his last victim was Rochus Pollock. And now here's where things get into the nitty gritty. So on December 21st, 1924, a drifter comes to town named Vincenz Olivier. And he kind of meets a townswoman or whatever. So she's like, hey, there's this man over there named Karl. And he, I'm sure, would love to help you if you just go explain your situation. He's like, sure, I'll do that. So he goes over to Karl, and Karl agrees to help him in exchange for him writing a letter for him. So Vincenz sits down at the desk and he starts to write this letter. But he kind of gets a little confused as to where this is going and whatnot, because Karl starts off by having him write, Adolf, you fat slob.
Okay.
So just as he's sort of, when somebody's dictating a letter for you to write, I'm assuming it was kind of like he started to turn around what? And then just then he sees that Karl is swinging a pickaxe to hit him in the head.
Oh.
So he kind of ducks just in the nick of time, and he gets this deep gash on his forehead,
Jesus.
which was apparently 8 centimeters long by 2 centimeters wide.
Okay.
In his temple. So Vincenz and Karl are now fighting. He's trying to get the weapon from him, and then Vincenz escapes through the front door, and he's kind of screaming that there's a madman trying to kill him. So he gets the attraction of the neighbors, and they get the authorities. He ends up going into the police station. He's covered in blood. He's telling them this guy's trying to kill me, da-da-da-da. So as we know, police were not fond of the poor. So Vincenz is actually arrested, and he's arrested
You
for
lying vagrant.
he's arrested for vagrancy and panhandling.
Of course. Wow.
So it's because though Karl was such an upstanding citizen,
Right.
and he's such a reputable man in the community.
This man carries coffins at the church.
And he came up with this story, and he basically said that he was trying to give him a handout, and then he tried to rob me.
I thought you were going to say a hand job.
That's a different story.
Yeah. Totally different charge.
Right? So he's how when he tried to rob him, that's why he attacked him, and that was the explanation for the gash in his head.
Right.
So Vincenz was actually given 10 days in jail.
Okay.
So basically they kind of disregarded his claim a little bit, but they still had to just take a look into, let's make sure.
Right.
Let's make sure. So they bring Karl into a holding cell for questioning, and of course not being able to face his consequences, that he knew all of his treachery was going to come out. Yes, treachery. He hangs himself in the holding cell a few hours before they could even interrogate him.
Really?
Yeah.
He just went ahead and hung himself?
He just hung himself.
Jesus.
That's why I was there's a lot of, you can't really get the full, why did you do that? Or
Right.
Why they do that?
Why did you do that?
So Christmas Eve now, police head to Karl's home. Now, initially they were thinking that they were going to secure his things, but they end up searching his home because they start finding just gross stuff around the place.
Right. Because they're that guy just really suddenly hung himself.
Yeah, there must be something amiss here. So they actually do find his gross hobbies. It's from murder to cannibalism, and he had just a lot of it hanging around the house. I guess he thought that he would never have visitors or something. Or if he did have visitors. No, he did, but he
would kill them.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So they found somewhat of a meat processing shop, and lab tests did prove that it was full of human remains. There was 240 human teeth, stretched and dehydrated human skin, tubs of fat, jars of meat and pickling brine, and a closet full of blood-stained clothes.
Ugh.
Yeah, he just didn't want to clean up. You know what always grosses me out about like these kind of people? I'm like, why do you always have to live in filth?
Yeah.
If you're doing all this, at least clean up after yourself.
It'd be so messy, though, and they're men.
That's true.
It's so much like Ed Gein. And then the fact that this is a German guy, I bet, you remember we always read about these things and it's like, oh, whoever it is got really into like German like writings of cannibals and Nazi experiments and yada yada. There's a lot of fuckery and
It's a
came out
lot.
of old timey Germany. and the American serial killers are like big fans.
Yeah.
Big fans.
Yeah, I've come across that a lot.
Yeah.
So also, and I don't know why this weirded me out a lot, but there's also equipment to make soap.
Oh, because you make it from fat.
And that's they found
the
jars
fat,
of
yeah,
fat. Yeah. So they don't exactly know how many people that he'd killed, but he did keep like a record, some sort of ledger, and that had 31 names recorded, but it did include Vincenzo's name. So technically it would be 30. Now, there are also dozens of identification papers.
He was counting his chickens before he hatched.
That's exactly right. And then the majority of his victims were recently released from prison or from a hospital they found.
Oh, okay.
So they did find various body parts, and they believe the number to be upwards of 42 people.
Yuck.
And this is in about 3 to 4 years. I'm assuming based off of the ledger that they found, he would have dated, I guess, and they would have been able to say, okay, in this span of time,
He said there is like 40 something teeth.
there's 240.
Oh!
Yeah, so
I wonder, 240. I wonder if you could tell if the teeth, like which teeth came from the same mouth.
I think at that time it may be more
Probably not.
difficult, but nowadays, of course, they could. But I did wonder that as well. So they found 16 femurs, 15 medium-sized pieces of long bones, 4 pairs of elbow bones, 7 heads of radii, which is the forearm bone, 9 lower parts of the radii, 8 lower parts of the elbow, a pair of upper shin bone, a pair of lower shin bones, and radii, of which extremities still remains were connected to it.
Oh, like,
Pieces of flesh.
ugh,
Like he didn't clean it yet.
gross.
Yeah. Also, there's a pair of collarbones, shoulder blades, heels, 8 heels.
Ew.
Yeah. And also ankle bones. There's 120 toes and phalanxes, which is feet bones.
Okay.
Yeah. 65 feet and metacarpal bones, which is hands and feet bones.
Yeah.
5 first ribs, and 150 pieces of just ribs.
Yuck.
They, of course, are like a lot of unanswered questions because he literally was like, well, I'm going to be found out.
Right.
And he just ends it all.
I don't want to discuss this.
Literally.
He was going to find some things, and I wish to not talk about it.
Like, you didn't even give it a second.
Yeah.
He literally was just like, all right.
He's like, they're going to my what? I'm going to just take this t-shirt.
So they don't, like, now the story, because it is an older story, it's been a little bit, there's misinformation about stuff. We don't exactly know which one is correct from which is not.
Right.
So I saw some places where it said that he used a handkerchief that he had. And I'm like, why didn't you take stuff from him? But I'm guessing that they really thought that they weren't going to find anything. He's a great guy in the community. Everything's fine.
Plus, they probably didn't take stuff away from people back then.
I would assume that as
I feel
well.
like that probably didn't start happening until like 20 years ago.
I guess they kind of learned that, like, yeah, we're going to have to take that.
They just keep killing themselves. If only there were a way to prevent this.
And then I'm like, how long was the handkerchief for him to hang himself?
I guess it wouldn't need to be long at all. You could
I
just
guess.
tie it around your neck and then like hook it on something and lean forward.
I guess.
If you wanted to kill yourself, you get it done.
I mean, unfortunately, that's true.
You'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Because I'm like, there probably would have been like, here's a long set of rope you have to choose from.
Yeah, you're
So-
not gonna have like options in prison. You really got to improvise.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was probably he must have had something like a scarf or the handkerchief or something like that. Obviously, that's how he died, so he found something.
Yeah.
Whatever. So after all of this came out, people were afraid to eat meat because they realized that he was selling pickled human flesh as pork meat. And he had been doing this for however many years, they don't know. Now, as a result of this, there was a lot of closures. There was local meat canning and processing plants that were closed down. There's a sudden outbreak of stomach disorders, which was all caused from everybody finding this out. And then also, interestingly, more human remains were found in the neighbor's garden in the 1970s, which is about 50 years after this had happened.
Oh.
That's like, I was like, oh, that's grisly. Can you imagine?
Just creeping over there at night. He's like, well, I filled my garden.
So we're working on yours.
Ugh.
So till this day, the shop is still there.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Is it like a tourist spot now, or?
You know what? I didn't look into it, to be honest with you. I looked at it and I'm like, it's one of those things
little
that when
shop
we
of
talk
horrors.
about, yeah, it literally looks the exact same as the olden pictures as what it is now. Obviously, they've done whatever to like keep it.
But it's like a functional butcher shop now?
Not a butcher shop. I think it's just a house that's there.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't find too much information on it. But when I looked it up, it just says that the house is there. You can go see it if you want to. I do have the address. Don't know if I'm saying this right. But it is Ul Stawoa 13 in Zebesis.
Perfect. Cannot confirm nor deny.
So if you're interested, that's where you gotta go.
Just pop that baby into GPS and away you go.
Right? So
It'll be like, I don't understand
right.
what you're saying at this time.
I mean, makes perfect sense to me.
Ugh, the like the cannibal ones are gross, but the ones where they like feed meat
Like, what
to
is that
other people,
about?
that's fucked
It's gotta
up.
be like some sort of like fetish or something. Like you want to know that people are eating people.
I guess so. Like during those times, it's like I could see it being like, well, I had no other way of like making a living for myself or whatever, and people needed to eat. But
Imagine that he was known for his meat, though.
yeah, I guess people
are like,
liked it. Yeah, like, this
delicious.
doesn't taste like any other pork I've ever had. Ugh.
I'm telling you right now, God, Lord Jesus, please forbid, if I ever found out that like the street meat was some weird person that was, doing funny business, I am vomiting for at least a year straight.
Yeah, it would be pretty.
Like,
pretty
I
rough.
need to know that there's no nutrients from this meat in my body anywhere.
Yeah,
And
because
I
then they
have
say
expelled all of it.
They say, what does it take? Like, it's like every 7 years, every cell in your body has finally like turned over, like died and been replaced with a new cell or whatever.
And I'll see you in 7 years.
Yeah, just put me in a coma. Wake me up in 7 years.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know that they used to call it, or it's called long pig.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the whole thing is he sold leather products and they
Right.
found skin that had been stretched and dried,
Right.
turning it into leather.
Right. It's very Ed Gein. Ed Gein didn't eat it though, right? He was just making his fashions.
Don't know which is worse. So,
Just a lampshade here, a garbage pail there,
Right.
a nipple belt over here,
got a nice little mug skull here.
the one and only nipple belt.
Oh, man. Just gross, gross,
Ew.
gross.
I just Googled it. Human flesh tastes like pork, hence the term long pig for human meat cuts. The long denoting the difference between the limb lengths of pig and human. Yucky. Although there are few first-hand accounts of the flavor of human flesh, its similarity in texture and taste to that of pork seems generally agreed upon. By who? By who is it agreed
That's
upon?
what you said first accounts.
Yeah. Well,
Who
they would have to be.
I mean, I guess they're talking to all the cereals and all the yucky people that are in person.
Yeah, I guess so.
And just sit there and be like, okay, so what does it taste like?
Yeah.
And then like typing, yep. So pork, got it.
Pork except long.
Anything else that you want to mention?
Gross.
Best with barbecues.
Ew. Great with a Chianti and some fava beans.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so he was basically holding people's pants up with people. He was letting people eat people, and he was making them bathe with people.
Oh,
Gross.
gross.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, I guess because it was like just sort of rando people that he would do it to, so nobody really noticed.
Well, from what I gather with these people who did this, because it also reminded me of the other couple of Germans I've done recently, where they really preyed on, like, the poor.
I'm pretty sure he did Russians.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You know what it is? Because they were kind of
general area of the world.
same area. Wow, all right, cool. So that's fine. Guys, you don't even know this story today. It was all over the place.
I've definitely learned a lot of history that I didn't necessarily even care to know about from doing this podcast.
Yeah. Certain things I'm just like, oh, okay.
I'd be like, I better learn this so I don't sound completely stupid.
I have a joke to tell you.
What?
It is a dad joke.
Okay.
Now, I had to stop donating blood because they just kept on asking me a whole bunch of stupid ass questions.
Like what kind of questions?
Well, they're asking me like, where'd you get it from? Like, whose blood is this? How'd you get it in here?
Well, yeah, that is kind of a cannibal joke.
Yeah. I made sure that I was like, oh, I'm going to tell her for this one.
How'd you get it in here? Oh, God.
Awful stuff.
That's good.
Oh, and I have another one too. But this one is for, I keep going to say Petrushkin.
Yeah.
Why did the blind man trip over the well?
I don't know.
Because he couldn't see that well.
That is good. Those are both pretty decent.
Right?
Yeah. I'll give it to you.
Okay, good. So I was like, don't forget to say it.
Don't forget your silly jokes.
Is there anybody out there that is watching Vanderpump Rules that I can converse with? Sarah doesn't give me that. So, are you guys keeping up with the whole Ariana, Raquel, Tom Sandoval drama? Because if you are, just know that I have a lot to say about it.
Well, Shaunda needs you to DM her so we don't have to talk about this on the podcast.
Just because I'm like, I think the new episode comes out today. It either came out yesterday or today. And we're just trickling along to the reunion, and I cannot wait. This is one time that I'm excited about reality TV. Just wanted to throw that out there. Sarah's looking at me funny, everybody.
I just know nothing about it.
There's a slight disdain in her face. All right, let's wrap this up. It's 2:00.
Alrighty. Well,
Thanks for joining us.
another cannibal story.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, stuff.
That kind of, I had decided who I'm doing next week, but now because you brought up cannibals, and I haven't done someone like super gross in a while.
I thought that this one was the happy middle of being gross and being old.
Right.
So that's why I chose it. But this is also after I abandoned my other story.
Yeah.
Which that one, it just, you know when like you hear about something, you're like, ooh, that's interesting.
Right.
And then you start doing the research and you're like, ugh, this is not tickling the fancy.
Every week, literally, I'll get Snapchats from Shaunda being like, showing me her notebook, like, working on this, looking that, blah, 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 blah. And then like 2 hours later, or the next day, I'll get another Snapchat being like, abandoned my story. I'm like, you must have so many abandoned stories.
You know what's funny? If I were to go back and just finish, I could probably have a good 2-3 stories.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been bad with it lately. You've been like very wishy-washy with it.
I don't know. I was literally saying that to Chris. I'm like, normally, like, you know, but I'm like, I just can't seem to just sit and do this one.
I'm like, what's this bitch doing? You had a month to write that one, and we come up to the day, and you're like, no, don't have it. And then 2 weeks to the next one, we come up to the day, you're like, nope, didn't do it, can't do it. Like,
I don't know what it was. I'm like you said, I started with enough time, and then I was like, I'm not doing that story.
Yeah.
And then this one, I'm like, it's just, your notes are, I just had to do the good copy. And I had to go, there's one article I didn't get to finish. So I wanted to go over that article, do the good copy, done. I just couldn't get the gusto to just do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because this story didn't really suck me in.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have those stories where you're like, ooh, and you can just boom, 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 done.
Yeah, that's why I was able to write the last one, even though it was 2 parts and it was so long. I was just like,
That was a good one.
Yeah, 'cause
that was
it
a
was
good one.
interesting.
This one, it's like,
I know. All right, well,
thank you for listening. Join us every Tuesday and every other day.
that's been our sign off now.
I feel like that's just what it is, so I don't fight it
Tuesday and
anymore.
every other day.
Yeah. You have to say it like that.
I think we should just say, see you next Tuesday. I know you hate that.
Not a fan. Not
a
a fan. But, you guys have been in my boobs this whole time.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is what we're doing now.
In case you didn't catch the Instagram video.
Yep. Take a look. Take a gander.
Got some shit for putting up that video.
I mean, it's not the best looking of me. I looked very ridiculous, you know. But
You were warned at the time that I filmed it. I
fine.
said, I'm putting this on Instagram.
you know what's funny? In the moment, I was like, it's fine, whatever. But then I didn't really think about the fact that I was in mismatched house clothes. My satin cap wasn't even on my head right. Like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those. I was missing nails.
And then it gets posted, and then like 4 hours later, you wake up, and then you go on Instagram, and you're like, "God damn it, Sarah!" I'm like, do you want me to take it down?
We don't post and delete, is what I said. It's fine. People get a glimpse into the real life of LaShaunda.
Yeah, we're just regular peeps.
Well, you know.
All right. Anyway, thanks for coming. We'll
Yeah.
see you some other time, not Tuesday.
Follow the socials.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.